The main topic that everyone's talking about, and that somehow I am not technically involved with, but related to in some way, is the Tesla bomber in front of the Trump Hotel in, I believe, Las Vegas, right? That exploded early into 2025. So today will be a somewhat interesting stream. But this was a live that we did a couple weeks ago on the back when the original Tim Kennedy drama was kicking off with his Book of Lies. And so we were reacting to a old, I believe, 2011 episode of the Ultimate Soldier Challenge featuring Tim Kennedy. And at the time, we weren't aware of this, but also that gentleman standing next to him is Matt Livelsberger, the alleged uh, bomber at the Trump Hotel with the Tesla Cybertruck. And that is him and Tim Kennedy in, again, 2011 on the History Channel for one of those silly, wacky, semi-tactical reality shows that were very cringe, but also very fun, which we reacted to a couple weeks ago. And then all of this blows up, literally and figuratively. And yeah, Nick says, or Daddy Actual says, Tim Kennedy is in every situation. Yes, everything is 6 degrees of separation from Tim Kennedy in the tactical space. Yes.
Do you think Matt had 25 IEDs?
Ooh, that's actually a good point. Maybe he just had 25 pounds worth of IEDs. So we have the alleged manifesto as well. We have a lot of other things. But the way I got into this was being sent this old 2011 video a couple weeks ago and then reacting to it on a live stream. So that was quite fun. But let's go ahead, and if you haven't seen this, this is kind of the first 30 seconds of this is like the breakdown of what you need to know.
The suspect behind the Cybertruck explosion at Trump Las Vegas Hotel has been identified as 37-year-old Matthew Livelsberger, an Army veteran from Colorado. The suspect had died in the explosion that took place, was the sole death of that blast that had also resulted in 7 others suffering from minor injuries. Authorities are investigating the explosion as a possible act of terrorism, and they are also looking.
It was Mr. What is this guy's name? Ryan Kings.
Whether or not
he has a little bit of a soy voice, I'm not going to lie. But as you can see from the explosion, fortunately, there was nobody close to it, but this could have been much, much worse because you can actually see.
Yeah, it does definitely blow out from the inside.
Oh, dude, look at that guy that's only about 10, 15 feet away, too, on the right.
Ooh.
No reaction. Well, I guess it's only a few frames, but...
Yeah. Probably didn't have time to react. Oh, there he is. He's gone.
Yeah. So was that the only casualty other than Matthew, or was he just injured?
The suspect behind the Cybertruck explosion at Trump Las Vegas Hotel has been identified.
Yeah, so no, he got out of there before. He must have just... That's pretty miraculous, actually, that he didn't catch something being that close. So this was originally, allegedly, some text that he sent to his ex just before all of this took place. So Matthew Livelsberger was boasting about his rented Tesla Cybertruck to an old girlfriend on New Year's Eve, according to text messages shared with NBC News. So if we run down, I think we have actual pictures of the text in here. So here's this gentleman sending pictures of his Tesla Cybertruck that he has rented. And he says, I feel like Batman or Halo. And his ex is like giving him the nerd emoji face, which is accurate. I don't know if it's cool or I should bully you about it. How fast is it? Ungodly. Yeah, no. Having driven several Teslas, they are very quick. It's a very different feeling to a conventional engine design. So it looks like, yeah, he'd had it for a couple of days, just relatively, it seems strange, but we'll get into his manifesto in just a minute. Not necessarily text from a guy that you think is going to blow himself up in the next few hours. So this is the full sheriff's interview here, which we might as well take a look at. This is about 7 minutes long. And this one here has a lot of the publicly available information that is somewhat reputable, depending on who you ask, I suppose.
Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Sheriff Dory Corin. I oversee our Homeland Security and Investigative Services Group, which includes our counterterrorism unit that's been working around the clock on this investigation. I just want to briefly share a few updates on some key areas to include the operational activity that led up to this incident, a little bit of information on the post-blast investigation as we know it today, and then finally, some of the information that we're discovering most recently about motives and plans to give you some insight on why this individual committed the act that he committed. To begin, just with the operational activity, the sheriff yesterday talked about the route that the suspect took to get to Las Vegas. We used a lot of this information to be able to track down video surveillance footage around different locations, as well as financial records, as well as call data records, as well as looking at the Tesla charging stations to be able to determine exactly which route the individual took, but more importantly, that it was the individual that we've identified, as well as the only individual in the vehicle during the path that he took to Las Vegas. As you'll see here in this video here at one of the charging stations, there's just one example. You'll see our suspect here. He'll exit the vehicle. He'll walk around the vehicle at different times. At one point, you're going to see that he opens the door of the vehicle. He retrieves a coat. He puts that coat on, and you're going to see that at different parts to include the photo that the sheriff talked about just a few minutes ago. We use this video information as well as what I said earlier about the financial records in terms of purchases being made with different credit cards, call data records, a video canvas at multiple locations, trying to use all of that to corroborate that the individual that we've identified is the same individual that drove that Tesla during that route that we've identified to Las Vegas. In addition to that, we also talked about the phones that were recovered. There were 2 phones that we recovered from the vehicle. Both phones were damaged. We are still trying to access the data in one of the phones, but we have been fortunate in our team, which is second to none, has done a really good job accessing the data in one of the phones that was recovered. You can see the phone here in the vehicle. It's very burnt from the outside. You can see another image here, but we're able to take this phone and be able to track data using a variety of different tools. And in that, we've identified a variety of information, but one thing in particular is there was an application in there that the suspect used to take notes. In that application, one of the notes is titled Surveillance Log by the Suspect. It appears to be more of a journal of activity. We identify multiple locations that match what we have in the route. We identify activity that we've matched. So for example, him purchasing firearms, him purchasing camping equipment or other types of equipment that were used in this incident matched what our data showed in terms of the route and the video surveillance we were recovering along that route. Beyond the operational activity, I want to also get a little bit into the post-blast investigation. So make no mistake, this is a suicide vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, or short, it's a suicide VBID. We know also, as mentioned by the sheriff yesterday, there's self-inflicted gunshot wound by the suspect.
Well, how did they get that angle? Is that from the Trump Hotel?
Vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, or short, it's a VBID. We know
he was definitely not moving.
Ignited from the front, right next to him. That's actually a really good shot. Yeah, the whole thing. Goes.
The sheriff yesterday, there's self-inflicted gunshot wound by the suspect. The coroner was very.
We do need to talk about that, though. Yeah, so those are fireworks. So yeah, the story continues to get stranger and stranger, though, because the self-inflicted shot himself in the back of the head 3 times. The self-inflicted gunshot wounds came from a Desert Eagle, apparently, that he had on him in the car, and he also had a SLR 7.5 300 blackout AR pistol with no optic. And this guy was a career Green Beret. It just seems odd. Very odd. As Chris says, does anyone think he actually did this? Reminds me of another Vegas terror attack. Yeah. Weird stuff happens in that city for sure.
I have a feeling this one will be swept under the rug just as quick as the other one.
Specific in their examination, it was an intraorbital gunshot wound, which essentially means that the suspect put the firearm in his mouth and discharged the gun, and ultimately the round came out the left side of his head. In addition to that, in terms of our assessment of the post-blast to confirm that he's the only individual involved and the only individual in the vehicle, we did a variety of video and photo comparisons to match the clothing. So if you look here, for example, this is a video in Las Vegas, and you're going to see in a moment here where he parks the Tesla truck. He comes out, and you're going to see some descriptive clothing that matches some of the other video that we've recovered along the route. Please keep in mind, this is a very extensive investigation, so there's a lot of content for us to review and examine. We're just showing examples and samples as we get them. There's more information as we go through it. But in this video, you can see even the distinctive jacket that he is wearing in that vehicle.
Sponsored by Bud Light. That's what it is. It's an ad campaign. Unbelievable. So yeah, so we will get into his manifesto in a minute. His manifesto is quite wild. Everything just gets crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier on it. What does it all mean, guys? That's right.
You mean the
Maybe a
Chinese
pizza parlor
submarine
invite?
drones?
Well, submarine UFO magnetic drive things, which we will get into.
The other thing that's important is the sheriff mentioned yesterday that Tesla sent to us engineers to come to Las Vegas to help us extract data from the vehicle. Thanks to their support, we were able to extract
Yeah, QE has a good point here. So Quantum Efficiency says it's amazing how his passport was both on him and also suffered very little damage, even though it took them a long time to identify the body. Yeah, I always bring my passport when I'm about to explode myself. It's just a little silly.
You remember about 24, 25 years ago, some passports, I mean, they
Yeah,
survived. So
they did perfectly on top of all the rubble. Very odd positioning for it after it entered a building at 400 miles an hour, but just
covered in jet fuel.
strange. Right. Well, it can't melt steel beams, so it can't melt a passport either.
the SDMI chip from the Tesla vehicle. And Tesla was able to confirm to us using the data from the vehicle that the vehicle was not in full self-driving mode at any time during this incident.
So that to me is strange. So if you guys weren't picking it up there, Tesla collaborated with them to get all the info from the vehicle, and they say it was not in self-driving mode because one of the theories floating around out there, this is just a theory, alleged, whatever you want to call it, right, was that the person who was dead in the vehicle was dead long before, timer on the VBED, and it self-drives to location, then blows up, and then he's the fall guy for it, right? That is one of the crazy, wacky theories out there. And then Tesla comes out immediately and they can, quote unquote, verify, oh no, it was never in full drive mode. And Tesla blowing up in front of the Trump Hotel, there's some symbolism there if you want to look into that. Again, it's all just wacky.
So if they have the data from the trip itself, then I'm assuming Tesla will also have the onboard footage.
Yes, that is how they obtained the footage from, not the onboard footage, but all of the data from where he was stopped, where he charged, and all of that. That was all given to them by Tesla because Tesla tracks all that stuff.
Right, but they also have cameras on all sides of the vehicle as well as inside of the vehicle.
Well, if they did, they didn't turn over that because I haven't seen the inboard footage of him. And that's kind of creepy in general, right? If your car manufacturer can, send off your inside the footage of your vehicle at any given point in time. That's sketchy to begin with.
I know that it was a contentious argument for a while that Tesla was putting cameras inside of the vehicle that pointed inside of the drivers because they need to make sure that with the self-driving and whatnot that you're not falling asleep, But apparently the owners and users didn't have access to the cameras. It was only for Tesla.
Really?
Yes.
So they do. I just Googled it, and you do have a cabin camera.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was
interesting.
I was fairly certain that it
2023.
was.
Yeah. Since 2023, it looks like. No. Since 2021, it looks like. So yeah. So
The
all
regular
new cars.
Teslas. The regular Teslas I knew, but I wasn't sure about the Tesla trucks. I figured that it was going to be the same
Probably the
thing.
same. That would be what I would guess. So maybe it's suspicious that we don't have that angle, or maybe they just don't want to share that because it's that would probably be fairly graphic. Yeah, Daddy Actual says they do have a camera. Yeah, no, if they're in the lower models, I would imagine they would be in the higher end models as well. So, the cabin camera is for blackmail. All right.
Finally, the last category just to touch on is motive, which I know everyone is very eager to try to understand and be able to explain what happened. I'll reiterate what the sheriff said is we still have a large volume of data to go through and a lot of content to go through. As you know, with any one of our devices, there's thousands, if not millions, of videos and photos and documents and web history and all of those things that need to be analyzed. But with that, just as a preview for as we get information, we're trying to be as transparent as possible. There were a couple pieces of content we thought were important to share for now. One is in the note application, he seemed to have 2 letters. One letter in particular, as you can see here, this is an excerpt from that letter. He says, fellow service members.
You know what this reminds me of is the Sam Hyde, where he's talking about activate all U.S. Patriots code, you know, whatever it is. But
He got away with it.
yeah. Fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. Well, he's not wrong there. Actually, that's even pulling punches, I would say.
Yeah.
Vet bros, rise up. That's right. Well, yeah, no, I also don't want to see that footage, Nick. I get what you mean. But they have the footage of several minutes prior him parking and the explosion without any sort of flash coming from the inside, because I think he had the 500 Smith & Wesson, which is like an incredible flash, although maybe it would have been contained inside of his head, which is a very dark, gross thing to think about.
500 Smith & Wesson or 500 Action Express? Or 50
Oh, sorry.
Action
Yeah. No, I'm wrong on that. That's a revolver cartridge. I was thinking of something else. Yeah. So, yeah, because they don't have the footage of that, and I don't necessarily want to see that. Yeah, 50 AE. Yeah, I misspoke. Not 500 Smith & Wesson. 50 AE. My bad.
Those are still ported.
Yeah, we talked about that. RC says they could have summoned the truck to the front door with a body in the driver's seat. Yeah, but Tesla comes out immediately and says, no, that's not the case. He definitely drove it there, parked it there with bystanders, shot himself in the head, and then had a timer go off to ignite the fireworks in the car.
Veterans and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich
Feckless.
themselves. He goes on to explain a variety of other grievances and issues, some political, some personal, a variety of other things, which we will do our best to release.
We are the United States of America, the best country, people to ever exist. But right now we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. Also not wrong.
Very quickly here. But then there's a second letter where there's some more excerpts. This one seems to be dated after the fact in that notes application. And in there, you can read a couple of the excerpts. We are the United States of America, the best country, people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. I'd like to just also expand on that and understand that these are just excerpts in there.
Interesting.
So clear case of PTSD.
Well, or at least that's the angle that it's being pushed, is very heavily. This is super obvious. PTSD related, couldn't handle what happened, and therefore does this as a display to wake up his fellow Americans. But the whole thing is just odd, right? Because it doesn't, as he said, yeah, Americans do only pay attention to the big things, right? Which is why you have so many mass casualty events or whatever it is, and that's what the media is infatuated with, and that's what we as Americans are also kind of infatuated with. That's what gets the most attention, that's what gets the most clicks, and I think that's a societal issue as a whole, that we gravitate to these sorts of events. But I don't know, the whole purpose seems strange to me. There's just some things that seem off, especially when we get into his manifesto a little bit later on.
There, he does offer additional information that is varying on the spectrum in terms of political grievances, issues about the conflicts elsewhere, not here, domestic issues, societal issues, a variety of other things, including personal challenges as well. We are intending to release those initial letters so people can understand the best they can what the person's thought process was at one point in time. However, please understand there is still a lot more content to go through, and that may change. There may be a lot more information that we recover that explains either more or shows a change in mindset at different times.
Penny says that email on Sean Ryan's show is fake. That guy got caught fabricating emails before.